AEW Dynamite beats NXT in the ratings despite NXT's huge viewership increase. We talk about it next on the Square Circle Cycle Babble. My name is Michael Valenti. Now, the official ratings are delayed due to President's Day, but according to PW Torch, AEW Dynamite did get a 0.31, which is an increase from last week's 0.29 in the 18 to 49 demographic, and only gained 6,000 more total viewers from last week, finishing off with 747,000 total viewers. Now, coming off of the hot angle from NXT Takeover Vengeance Day, where Adam Cole turned on Kyle O'Reilly, they went up from a 0.12 to a 0.16 in the 18 to 49 demographic, but finished with 713,000 total viewers. This is a gain of 155,000 total viewers from last week. Obviously, a lot of people were curious how NXT would follow up with TakeOver, and for the most part, I think they did a good job. They really focused on the progression of storylines, the main focus being Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. Now, if you're part of wrestling Twitter or any part of the IWC, I'm sure you heard the rumor that Kyle O'Reilly actually suffered a diabetic seizure after getting suplexed onto the stairs by Adam Cole during the main event last night. It got social media all wild up. I mean, we had people who weren't sure it was true. You had some people attacking others on social media that were saying it was a work. Even Isaiah Swerve Scott, who's playing a heel now, beat up Leon Ruff on this episode of NXT. He got some heat on social media when he made a comment on Twitter saying that O'Reilly and Leon Ruff will be staying together in the hospital. Now, it turns out Kyle O'Reilly is really good at selling. Fans were, they were shot into a work, for lack of a better word. He was carried out on a stretcher after the tapings of NXT last night, which got the whole rumor started. A fan took a picture of it, put it on social media saying that Kyle O'Reilly has a seizure. Now, it was never implied on NXT commentary or in the storyline or O'Reilly making it look like it was a seizure. It was just someone making the assumption because he knew Kyle O'Reilly has type 1 diabetes. Now, we fast forward to the next day. Kyle O'Reilly has actually made a statement on Twitter. Here's what he had to say about it. Thanks to everyone for checking in. Your love and support truly means the world. I was placed on a stretcher last night out of concern for my neck after receiving a brain buster on the steps. Thankfully, I can move around somewhat okay, but I may need some time to heal. As much as that hurt and sucked last night, the betrayal was worse. Coming back from this stronger and with a thirst for revenge, best served cold. So it's possible that Kyle O'Reilly might be taken off TV for a while to play off the injuries, while we still have some plates spinning in this whole storyline with Pete Dunne pinning Finn Balor in the main event. Also, you have Adam Cole holding the NXT title as one of the closing shots of the night. Roderick Strong playing the middleman of this whole Undisputed Era split. So it could end up that this leads to some kind of fatal 4-way or 5-way for the NXT title. Maybe Finn Balor finishes off Dunne again, then goes after Adam Cole. Eventually we get a one-off with Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. Either way, I like where this is going, and I'm definitely intrigued by this. But NXT, they also had some other good storyline progressions going on. Dexter Lumis in the way, where Austin Theory was kidnapped at TakeOver. He comes back during the Shotzi Blackheart, Ember Moon versus Candice LeRae Indy Hartwell rematch. He's out there all tied up in his skivvies, and Johnny Gargano came in for the day. It was a good segment, good match. I like where this is going. I like to see Dexter Lumis take on Johnny Gargano for the North American Championship and see where that goes. Also, Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai had a good promo segment with Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, who, honestly, I think they got out-promoted in this segment. We'll be seeing them in a match in 2 weeks as Gonzalez and Kai, the Dusty Road Classic winners, face the Women Tag Team Championships for those titles. Xia Li versus Casey Catanzaro next week to go along with the rescheduled Karrion Kross versus Santos Escobar match. All great storyline progression, and as I mentioned before, Isaiah Swerve Scott beating down Leon Ruff, building this heel turn that he's been going with. They definitely put the stones in place to make NXT a lot better in the weeks to come. However, while NXT had the more intrigue going into it, I think AEW found a way to get wrestling fans talking about it a little bit more last night. The main purpose of AEW Dynamite was to fill out the card for AEW Revolution. I felt like every match, every segment had a purpose towards that, with the exception of maybe Orange Cassidy versus Luther, which was like a 5-minute squash match. We found out Hangman Page and Matt Hardy are going to be having a big money match at Revolution where the winner takes the other's first quarter salaries. We have the Face of a Revolution ladder match, which is going to feature Cody, Scorpio Sky, Penta, as well as 3 other participants. The winner of that match challenges for the TNT Championship. The Young Bucks retained the tag titles against Santana and Ortiz, and I'll admit, I was not a fan of the finish with Ortiz getting rolled up by Nick Jackson, but with MJF getting the Inner Circle ejected earlier in the match, I'm okay with the fact that the Young Bucks retained. I think this could stretch out the story of the inevitable implosion of the Inner Circle, where MJF and Jericho maybe take the titles off of the Young Bucks at Revolution and sets up a match with Santana and Ortiz for those tag titles later on down the line. Long-term storytelling. Totally fine with that. But with all that said, it seems like there's 3 things that AEW Dynamite had people talking about last night. The first one was Serena Deeb versus Riho. The first women's match in a long time that got significant airtime on Dynamite. And they delivered a pay-per-view quality match. They had reversals and near falls that had the crowd invested with each count. Serena Deeb laying in the physicality was great. The quickness from Riho looked like she didn't miss a beat after being away from 11 months. They had a great dynamic in the ring. Riho's win could plant a seed for her challenging for the NWA Women's Championship, maybe at Revolution. I mean, Riho could lose to Thunder Rosa next week or the following week in the semis of this Eliminator tournament. So you could definitely have Riho in a championship match, whether it's the AEW Championship or the NWA Championship. I feel like Riho is going to get some kind of championship match at Revolution. And despite her being, 98 pounds or whatever it is, she does put on a good wrestling match. Another thing people are talking about, Sting. For weeks, fans have been wondering, what are they doing with this Darby, Sting, and Team Taz story? It just seems like Sting walks out, Sting walks back, Sting walks out, Sting walks back, Sting walks out, Sting walks back. Well, last night that changed. Not only did he get attacked by Brian Cage and Taz's son Hook, but he also took a power bomb, leaving many wondering if the 61-year-old was okay. Now, I got to admit, Brian Cage did a very good job making this move look very impactful, but did it in a way to make Sting protected. And a move like that, that's being Sting's first bump since a bump similar to that ended his career in 2015. It was a buckle bomb, so the whole power bomb dynamic. So I think a lot of trust had to be put into Brian Cage to deliver such a move. And honestly, he deserved the trust last night after doing that. Also, I think this segment gave heat to Team Taz because they finally used the numbers game to their advantage. Now, usually either Darby Allin or Sting come out and then Team Taz walks away. But because we knew Darby Allin wasn't coming out because last time we saw him, he was being dragged out in a body bag by Team Taz on a van. Chances are he wasn't coming back this week. So they take advantage, beat down Sting, and, they powerbombed him. I thought it was a good segment. Now, lastly, to end the show, after a fun and entertaining 6-man match that showed Moxley's craziness, Phoenix's ability in the ring, and Archer showing how dominating he could be in the ring as a big man, Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers come out to attack Moxley, and this is where Omega tells Moxley that at Revolution, they will have a rematch for the AEW Championship, but it will be an exploding barbed wire death match. Now, I know a lot of people are asking what the hell kind of a match this exploding barbed wire death match is. Well, if you follow the careers of Mick Foley and Terry Funk or any Japanese wrestling, I'm sure you've come across a match like this in the past. It was a popular match in Japan, and basically the ropes are replaced with barbed wire, and there's plywood with barbed wire placed around the ring, and if you make contact with this barbed wire, it triggers C4 explosives. That's basically it. So If you were one that wasn't a fan of the lights out match, thought that was too much for you at Full Gear, it's about to get a lot worse. However, I got to admit, I don't see Kenny Omega as the explosive barbed wire deathmatch kind of wrestler. This definitely plays more into Jon Moxley's approach, so I'm not too sure how I feel about this match just yet. Do I think it's going to be a good match? I don't know. I mean, usually hardcore deathmatch type of wrestling isn't really my favorite kind of wrestling, but can they tell a good story? Maybe, maybe not. I'm intrigued. I'll see what happens on March 7th when that match comes. So, although I went into Wednesday night more interested in NXT, AEW is what gave the lasting impression for me. Both shows were good. They did some serious storyline progression on both shows, but honestly, AEW stole any heat NXT had this week and applied it to their build for AEW Revolution. So this week, I'm going with AEW Dynamite beating NXT to win this week's Wednesday Night War. Let me know what you thought this week. Which show is better, AEW Dynamite or NXT? Don't forget to share this all over social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at SCPB Podcast. Subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Squared Circle Zygo Babble.